recording has started, and when a few more people have arrived, then I will ask people to post present. So far, there are about 55 people, right? It's 56, including 2 of me. More and more people are showing up. That's good. All right, so let me share my screen with you. All right. So yes, you should be able to see my screen now. So while we're waiting for another 40 people to show up, let me just use this time to make sure that everybody received the 2 emails I sent you. When did I send that? I think I sent one on Wednesday and one yesterday. So PowerShell. Now, there's more than one way to connect to Euclid. I have had a small number of people email me saying they had certain difficulties. And the method I'm showing you now is the method you should use if you have difficulty. Okay, so some people are using Smart TTY and trying to connect directly to Euclid had difficulty. I don't use Smart TTY, at least very rarely. I tried it a few times, but I don't. So if it's not working for you, you should use. You can get help from Zhuyi Wong, the person to ask for help with Euclid, not Euclid, Venus. I haven't asked people to post present yet, okay? So those who posted present, I have not asked people to post present yet, okay? So people who posted already may have to post again, all right? Because right now, there are still more than 30 people who aren't in class, right? So I want to wait a little bit. But anyway, so what you should do is just show you the relevant page of the first day announcements. So the most robust way, and the method that's least likely to fail, if you want to, of logging onto Euclid, is to use this this method here. You log onto Venus first, and then SSH from Venus. Okay. So in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to ask people to post present. And those of you who have already posted present, please remember to post again, right? Otherwise, I'll think you just posted right at the beginning, and then you left to cook yourself some dinner or something. Okay, so remember, all the people who are posting present now, you must remember to post present again when I actually ask you to, okay? So people like Chen Jian Jia, right? Right, so all these people who are posting now are going to have to post again, right? All right, so how many people have shown up now? 73. That means about 70 people have shown up, just over 70. All right, so another, let me wait a little bit more. All right, so this is the way to connect to Euclid if you're having trouble. All right, do not post present. Do not, N-O-T. N-O-T, do not. Okay, I will be asking you to do it later, right, when most people are here. But let me just finish off this first. So what you should do is make sure you're using the right username. So quite a lot of people, when they can't log onto Euclid, are just using the wrong username. Now, the issue is, if you use the wrong username, then your password will be wrong. And if you enter your password wrong too many times, Euclid will block you. And then you won't be, even if you get your login details right, you won't be able to log on directly. But even in that case, even if you've been blocked, you can still log on if you do it using this method, you see? Because this method here says you log into Venus first. So I have Euclid set up so it's not going to block people who are already logged on to Venus, right? Because if you can log on to Venus, then presumably you're a legitimate bona fide student, and so I'm not going to block you, okay? Yes, Euclid does block you, but if Euclid blocks you, then just log in the way I'm telling you now, okay? So I don't think Euclid should kick you back to Venus when you use the wrong account and credentials 50 times. At least I'm not aware. I haven't set it up to do this. But I don't know why you would be using the wrong account credentials 50 times anyway. So once you've done it, kick me back to Venus every 5. Oh, no, that's not blocking you. Blocking you is a different thing, right? Just saying you have to try again. That's not blocking you. Blocking you is when it won't let your computer connect to Euclid. Okay, so that's a totally different issue. So once you're blocked, your computer will not be able to connect to Euclid at all. All right. Eventually, the block gets lifted. So if you try again the next day, it will probably allow you to log in again. But in the meantime, you can still log in. You just connect to Venus and use this method. All right. So that's the method I'm showing you now. So you first connect to Venus. All right. Like that. And then you connect to Euclid. Like this. All right, so now I'm going to enter my Euclid password. So I'm entering it correctly. So that's good. So it's, let me log in. Now notice some people make a mistake of putting a hyphen here instead of an underscore. Remember, your Euclid username has a hyphen in it. All right. Sorry, I take that back. It does not have a hyphen in it. It has an underscore in it. Right? Your Euclid username has no hyphen, but it does have an underscore. And your Euclid username is not the same as your Venus username. So do not try and use your Venus username to log on to Euclid. That won't work. Okay. Now, there is a way to log on to Euclid directly that's mentioned in this footnote, right? Everyone was supposed to read this, but I think some people didn't. So I read this footnote, right? So it explains how you can log on to Euclid directly using Windows PowerShell. And we're using these instructions. These are different. I'm not talking about this method. I'm not talking about this method. This method involves using Smart TTY. And occasionally students have difficulty with that. So if this method for some reason doesn't work, then maybe you could ask CVE for help. But in the meantime, just make sure that you can log in anyway. So one way is to use this method, logging into your Linux account using Windows PowerShell, but with Euclid here instead of Mars, right? Use Euclid here, all right? So that's what this is saying. That's what this footnote. Where is this footnote? So this footnote is telling you to do that, right? So replace Mars with Euclid in those instructions, right? That's what you should do. But if even that doesn't work, then you can fall back on this method of logging in via Venus. So log onto Venus first, and then use this SSH command. If even that doesn't work, then and only then would it be appropriate to send me a screenshot saying it's not working? Okay, so if this method doesn't work, then something is clearly wrong, and you can send me a screenshot. Well, I suppose if you this method of logging on using your Windows PowerShell or logging in onto your Linux account using Mac, that should actually work as well. Except that sometimes students get blocked because they enter their password wrong too many times. But in that case, what you want to do is to just log in using this method, and then the next day, once you know what your password, your username and once you have your username and password right, then the next day you can try again using this method, right? Logging onto your Linux account using Windows PowerShell, and then if that still doesn't work, then you can send me a screenshot, and I can look into that to see, look into the issue to see what's wrong. Almost everyone who has difficulty with logging on in recent years has not followed my instructions to check email on Euclid at least twice a week. Right? Remember, everyone is supposed to log on to Euclid at least twice a week and check email on Euclid by entering Alpine I. Okay? And what I found over the years is that almost everyone who has difficulty with logging onto Euclid has not actually logged onto Euclid more than once in the previous 7 days, whereas this says you should log onto Euclid at least twice a week to prevent, so you don't forget your username or password. Well, I think most people who are supposed to come will have come by now. Right now, I'm almost 80 people, so it seems there are still 20 people missing. But anyway, all right, let's not wait forever. So everybody should post present, right? So if you're present, please post present now. This includes the people who posted present. Everybody should post present. All right. Anyone else? Okay, so it seems that's everybody. Oh, one more. Okay. Save this. So 8 o'clock class. 8. All right. Now, I sent 2 emails to the class. So checking email on Euclid. I've also sent a lot of test emails to myself, mainly in August. I was having some problems with the mail forwarding, so most of these you won't have received. All right. So anyway, this says Thursday, but it was actually sent on Wednesday. I think it's using a GMT instead of Eastern Standard Time for some reason. There's some issue here. All right, but anyway, there's an important reading assignment for you to do, and the reading assignment has a number of parts. Hopefully you will have already done this part, right? B1, right? It says try to finish B1 before our class on Monday of next week. That means before this class. And then it says here, also do B2 before Wednesday of next week, right? That means Wednesday, that means the day after tomorrow. So if you haven't yet done B1, then you need to do both B1 and B2 before our class on Wednesday. And then next week, not next week, after Wednesday.
Professor, where should we post it?
Sorry?
You said assignment 2 is not for submission.
That's right.
So what are you talking about right now?
I'm not talking about assignment 2 right now. I'm talking about this email. So this is not new, right? You received this email, is that right?
Yes, Professor. I can see everything through my account, all of your messages.
Right. So you checked email on Euclid using Alpine, right? You should make sure you also do that at least twice a week. So you should see something exactly like this when you check email on Euclid using Alpine. But it should also have been forwarded to your Qmail address. But also check email on Euclid, because sometimes mail forwarding is delayed or might not work because of spam filtering. But anyway, so this assignment, right, reading assignment, has to be done before Wednesday. Part B has to be done before Wednesday, and Part C has to be done before Monday of next week, right? Monday the 27th. All right. So and then after that, there are a few more pages for you to read before Wednesday the 29th. All right, section 6.3 and 6.4 on pages 161 to 165. Now, after doing all of these parts of the reading assignment, and as I say, you should have done B1 already, then you can start to work on assignment 2, assuming you've attended all the classes. Right? So it says you should finish Lisp assignment 2 before our class on Monday. Well, there's a typo here. Somebody pointed this out to me in an earlier section of this class. This should, of course, say October 4. So let me just mention that. You probably noticed this as well, right? But anyway, 3-4 should read. 3-4 should read 10-4 in my email of last week, right? The one that was sent on Wednesday. I'm pretty sure it was sent on Wednesday. It says Thursday, but there's something wrong with the. I think you received it on Wednesday. All right. So 3-4 should read 10-4, and so finish assignment 2 before our class on the 4th of October. All right, that's Monday of the week after next. Then after that, you can begin to think about assignment 3, which will be provided to you probably next week, right? Not this week. And there will be some reading that you have to do before you work on assignment 3. And assignment 3 you will have to submit. So assignments 1 and 2 you don't have to submit, but assignment 3 you will have to submit. Okay. So to prepare yourself to do assignment 3, you need to finish assignment 2, and then do some additional reading that will be assigned next week. All right. So that was the email of last Wednesday. And then I sent an email yesterday just to tell everyone the solutions to list of assignment 1 are now available. So even if you think you know how to do all of the problems of assignment 1, please do take a look at the solutions because it's also important to make sure you actually understand my solutions. Okay, so regardless of whether or not you think you can solve all the problems, do take a look at my solutions. All right, so those are the 2 emails that were sent to the class. If there's anybody who did not receive both of those emails, now is a good time to let me know. Right? Just say I did not receive one of the 2 emails. Right? Wait 10 seconds to see if anybody says they didn't receive one of those emails. Okay. Didn't get solutions forwarded. Well, the solutions weren't supposed. Well, I didn't forward them. The solutions have been posted. I mean, you have to follow the instructions to access the solutions, right? So you have to use the less command. Okay, so the solutions don't get forwarded. Oh, so that's what you're saying. Okay, so that all right. So what? You're saying you didn't receive the solutions email? Linda, you didn't receive the solutions email. Is that what you're saying? You received it only on Euclid. Oh. Is your forwarding address correct? Check your forwarding address. Oh. Well, that's not good. So in future, you might have to check email on Euclid more than twice a week if email forwarding isn't working for you. All right. So you're the only person who said that among all my students. I have 100 students in this section. They're not all here right now. Only, let me see, 81 at the moment. And in the, yeah, it was sent yesterday. My previous 2 sections have 80 altogether. So far, Lindita is the only person for whom the mail forwarding hasn't worked. But if it doesn't work for one student, it's entirely possible it won't work for other students. So check your spam folder. This just reinforces my point that everyone should check email on Euclid at least twice a week, because there's a small but non-zero chance that mail forwarding will not work. So yeah, yes, okay. So Linda, you're saying you received 1 email that was forwarded, but you didn't get the other one. So that means that email forwarding sometimes works, but not always. So I would say, based on this experience, email forwarding works 99.5%, maybe 99% of the time. But not 100% of the time. So it works well, but not so well that you can just assume it will always work. So everyone should check email on Euclid at least twice a week. And in Linda's case, since it's failed at least once, I would say check email on Euclid more than twice a week, maybe at least 3 times a week, right? All right. But hopefully you are the only person for whom mail forwarding hasn't worked perfectly so far. As far as these 2 emails are concerned. All right, so just quit Alpine now. And let's get back to the slides. So we got to here last time, and now we're starting a new topic. So in Common Lisp, the textual expressions that you find in Lisp code are called S expressions. And S stands for symbolic. That's because S expressions often contain symbols, and of course you should all know what symbols are because you were supposed to read 1.1 through 1.8 of Turetsky, and one of those subsections is about symbols. Now there are 2 kinds of S expression, atoms and lists. Now these 2 kinds of S expression are almost, but not quite, mutually exclusive. There is one S expression that is both an atom and a list, but that is the only exception. So the only exception is the empty list. The empty list is both an atom and a list. The empty list is both a list and an atom, and it is the only S expression that's both a list and an atom. And there are two ways to write the empty list. You can write it either using list notation, L-I-S-T, list notation, as open parenthesis, close parenthesis, like that, all right? And in fact, in Scheme, that's how you would write the empty list. But in Common Lisp, you could also write the empty list as nil, as the symbol nil. So the symbol nil is identical to the empty list in Common Lisp. But in Scheme, the dialect of Lisp that we will be using, that you will be reading about in the course reader, and the dialect of Lisp that I will use for providing solutions to Lisp assignments 3, 4, and 5, you can't use nil to mean the empty list. So when I give you solutions to the to assignments 3, 4, and 5, you won't see the word nil, because in Scheme, a nil has no special meaning. But in Common Lisp, nil means the same thing as the empty list, and you will see nil very frequently. Now, there are actually two kinds of atom that you will be using a lot. Other kinds of atom you won't be using much, if at all. So the first kind of atom that you will be using very frequently are numbers. So you will have read about numbers in Turetsky, right? There's a section called 3 kinds of number. So you've got an integer here. That's one kind of number. That's a floating point number. Another kind of number. Here's another floating point number. And finally, we have a ratio. And the other kind of atom that you will be using a lot are symbols. So here are some examples of symbols. You will also be using strings occasionally, but only as file names. So when you want to load in a file, you specify the file name as a string. So if you take a look at Lisp assignment 2, so it's important to know how to work with Lisp files, right? So if you look at this red comment here, and click on this Working with Lisp Files link, that takes you to page 3 of this document, and there's a paragraph here about how to load a file of Lisp function definitions into Lisp, and you will see that the file name is specified as a string. Okay, that's the only way. That's the only way in which you will be using strings in this course. So strings will only be used as file names. Now, there are two kinds of list. The main kind is called proper lists. So a proper list is just a series of items inside parentheses. So in this case, there are 4 items. So this is called a list of length 4, right? A proper list of length 4. So the first element of the list is the symbol go. The second element of this list is itself a list. It's a list of length 3. The third element of the list is again a list. It's a list of length 2. And the fourth and last element of this list is the symbol b. So this then is a proper list of length 4. It contains 4 and only 4 elements. 2 of those 4 elements are themselves lists. And the second element of the first element is itself a list. All right, so let's look at the 4 elements again. Right? So the first element is the symbol go. The second element is the list that is highlighted here. The third element is the list that is highlighted here. And the fourth element is the symbol B. So there are 4 and only 4 elements in this list. So this is called a proper list of length 4. Now, from time to time, you will also see a dotted list, but only if you did something wrong. But of course, since you're beginners, it's quite likely that sometimes you will do things that are wrong. And actually, even experienced programmers sometimes make mistakes, right? So when you occasionally you'll make a mistake, and then you will see what's called a dotted list. So a dotted list looks rather like a proper list, except that there's a dot and then an atom other than nil after the dot right at the end. So if you're writing a function and you expect it to return this, but then when you test your function, you find it returns this instead with a dot here, your function is wrong. Okay? Because your function, either these two are two different things. A proper list is not the same thing as a dotted list. So if you write your code correctly and you test it in an appropriate way, then you should never see a dotted list. But inevitably, sometimes you will make mistakes, as all programmers do from time to time. And when that happens, you may well see a dotted list. So once again, if a function you write for this course returns a dotted list, then either your code has a bug, okay? Well, I wouldn't say that the purpose of the dot is to alert you of this. I'm just saying, so in more advanced list programming, well, a dotted list is just something that looks like this with a dot. That's all there is to it, right? So a dotted list, I'll say a little bit more later, but for now, whenever you see a dot and then an atom other than nil after the dot and then the closing parenthesis, you've got a dotted list. So that's bad, okay? So that means you made a mistake. In more advanced programming, the programmer may deliberately try to create a dotted list. But in this course, you will not be asked to do that. So when you're doing programming assignments, if the functions you write produce a dotted list, then one of these things happen. One of the things mentioned in this paragraph. Either your code has a bug, or an inappropriate argument value was passed to the function. So this could be that you've got your function is being called by some other function, and that other function has a bug. Or maybe you're testing your function, and when you're testing your function, you called it with an inappropriate argument value. So for example, now you don't know about this function yet, unless you've been reading ahead. So, but there's a function called cons, and so I'll be talking about quote later, but for the moment, I wouldn't worry about this apostrophe right now, but you'll be using it a lot later on. So if I have this, right, that will give you the list AB. But you might make the mistake of typing this, and then you get a dotted list, right? So this is an example of a kind of mistake that produces a dotted list, all right? Now, in more advanced list programming, somebody might want to make a call like this deliberately because they want A dot B. But that's in more advanced programming and not something that you will be asked to do. So if you're just doing the programming assignments you're asked to do, you should never see a dotted list. And if you do, that means you made a mistake. It doesn't mean anything. It just is, you say, what is the parenthesis? It's part of the notation. It's the purpose of the dot is to tell you that you have a dotted list rather than a proper list, okay? Now later on, I will be showing you the internal representation of dotted lists and proper lists. And so at that time, I will address your question in more detail. But right now, I don't want to get ahead of myself because there are lots of more elementary things that I want to cover first. Okay, but we will get back to your point of the difference between dotted lists and proper lists later. But for the moment, just regard the dot as indicating that you have a dotted list, and therefore you've done something wrong. Okay. Now, each S expression is a textual representation of a list data object, which is also called an S expression. So the term S expression means two different things. It means a piece of text that's either an atom or a list, right? So these things are all S expressions, right? All these things, all of the things you see here, I'm sorry, this is an S expression, right? A proper list, and this is another S expression, a dotted list. So all of these things are S expressions, but the term S expression also means the internal representation of the S expression that is used by lists, so the representation inside the computer. Okay, so the way Turecki describes this, and you should have read this already, but maybe some of you haven't. So let me just. So you remember you were supposed to read this page before today. In fact, quite a lot more than just this page. So it says every list has just two forms: a printed representation and an internal one. So they're both called lists. but that nevertheless is telling you that the term a list means two different things, right? The printed representation of the list and the internal representation. And what I'm saying here is that that's true for all S expressions, right? An S expression means the textual representation and also the internal representation. And not only the S expression, so the term atom or number or symbol or string, all of these terms mean two different things. They mean the textual representation, but also they also mean the internal representation. And you have to use the context to decide whether I'm referring to the textual representation or the internal representation. Now, for people who want to know a little bit more about S expressions than I'm going to cover in this class, there is a good discussion in this book, this recommended book by Seibel, right? Reference number 4 in the first day announcements. Now, if you look at this footnote here, footnote number 4, right? This is reference 4, and there's also this red. This 4 here indicates that you should refer to footnote number 4, and so it says the text of this book is available online. So let's click on here. So this is the book I'm talking about. This book has a lot of good information about Lisp. However, it doesn't focus on functional programming. So you have to be a little bit careful when reading this book, because a lot of the code in here is not usable when doing programming assignments or when answering exam questions, because for programming assignments and exam questions, all the functions you have to be in a functional style. So this is a good book with a lot of good information about Lisp, but it isn't confined to talking about functional programming. So you have to be a little bit careful when reading this book. But if you want to learn more about Lisp than just what is going to be covered in this course, then this book is strongly recommended. So if you want to do more Lisp programming after you're done with this course, then I suggest you learn more about Lisp by reading this book. This is a very well-known book on Common Lisp and has a lot of good information. But anyway, if you look at chapter 4 of this book,